no movement, no rallies, no protests, nothing. And in the absence of any such public action, that bill was completely watered down to simply acknowledge that caste discrimination exists and that this issue should be visited in the future. The DMK government in the South Indian state of Tamil Nadu, which has built its political reputation on having an anti-caste policy bent, and they have passed some important policies like making sure that the priests in the temples are not, the priest positions in the temples are not restricted by caste. This is an important step forward. Thank you, Anup. Good evening, everyone. Jai Bhim. It has been an incredible victory in Seattle. I won't repeat some of the things that we have said many times since the victory on February 21st. I want to talk about what our next steps have been and what they should be. We know that I don't know how many of you know, we actually, immediately after we won the victory in Seattle, we had, and some of you remember, we had Ravidasya activists from British Columbia who joined us on the day of the vote, and some of them are here, Kamlesh ji, Rashpal ji, everyone here. We actually got in touch with them immediately and said we should do a public meeting in Surrey and bring a demand that the British Columbia government should ban caste discrimination in the entire province. And I cannot tell you how grateful I am that the Ravidasya activist community with their leadership has taken this up in a serious way, and we're also fortunate that in British Columbia we have two branches of Socialist Alternative Canada. So it is yet another, it's a continuation of how Socialist Alternative, my organization, and the Bahujan activists are working together. In fact, we had a major intervention on the 2 weekends of Baisakhi festivities, and by now, we've just like we did in Seattle, we shared a public petition that is calling on the British Columbia government to ban caste discrimination, and so we've already collected 2,000 signatures in support of that petition. It is extremely popular. And we've had so many activists from the Gurdwaras helping us. Of course, this is not going to be an easy struggle. We know it will take much more than what we have done already to win in British Columbia. So the next step that we have is on June 17th, we are going to be doing a joint rally in Surrey. I'm personally going to be there joining them. I hope as many of you as possible can come and join us on June 17th. And in the meanwhile, we are fighting to, just as we did in Seattle, to get labor unions to pass resolutions in their membership urging the British Columbia government to do this as well. And I'm happy to report that we already have one victory there. The New Westminster Teachers Union has passed a resolution favoring this petition as well, and we'll be fighting in other unions as well. And we know, as Dalit ji mentioned, we know that in Burnaby, Jaiji is here. We won an important aspirational statement for the city's public employees against caste discrimination. It's important that we include this in the step towards the demand that we have that British Columbia government should do this. And a similar effort, as many of you know, is happening in California. And many of you here have been in touch with the activists in the Bay Area who are attempting to do a public meeting, hopefully on May 7th. But it's really important that we keep pushing this effort. I mean, at this moment, and this is where, we cannot just celebrate our victories and pat ourselves in the back. We have to discuss some lessons, seriously about why we won, what we won, and what lies ahead. And so, an important point that needs to be made is that the California Senate Judiciary Committee unanimously voted for the bill that's in front of them this past Tuesday. It is an important milestone, and we have to recognize this. If this bill itself would not have been put forward had we not won our historic electrifying victory in Seattle. That is what is putting pressure on the Democratic Party to do something. They could have done something 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago. It's not a coincidence that this bill has come forward now. So we have to recognize that when we fight, we not only win the immediate thing we're fighting for, it actually sets in motion future, potential future victories. It's not guaranteed, but it puts pressure on the establishment, and it's that momentum that we have generated. But we cannot be complacent. In fact, it should be noted that at the Judiciary Committee, our side, those who are supporting the bill to ban caste discrimination, we were out-mobilized by the Modi right wing 2-1. This is a serious issue, so we have to continue building the struggle there. And in fact, we have just heard from the staff at the Appropriations Committee, which is the next step for this bill, that it could be that this bill would be delayed until next year, which would be a fatal blow. We cannot let that happen. Absolutely. And that is the reason we cannot let up the pressure. And that's why we are urging that we do this public meeting and we keep building momentum among the grassroots, just like we did here. We would not have had hundreds of people, especially our Bahujan community members, workers, not come and spoken personally about the situation they are facing. That was very important. But and we also saw what happened in Toronto. There was an attempt to push forward a bill, not a bill, this is not a city of Toronto, this is Toronto School Board. There was an attempt to have a policy in the school district to ban caste discrimination, but because they didn't build any real momentum, no grassroots pressure, no movement, no rallies, no protests, nothing, and in the absence of any such public action, that bill was completely watered down to simply acknowledge that caste discrimination exists and that this issue should be visited in the future. Now, we welcome every progress that's possible, but we also have to be sober and recognize this was a lost opportunity, because right on the heels of this victory in Seattle, we could have won big in Toronto, but it also shows victories are not automatic. We have in order to turn the potential into actual victories, we have to mobilize. So you know who held a rally outside the Toronto School Board meeting? The Modi right wing held their rally, but we weren't there present. So this is a lesson for us that the reason we won in Seattle was because we did something right. And there are larger issues at stake as well. This is what we have to, especially when we are here to celebrate the legacy of Baba Saheb Ambedkar, it is very, very important for us to point out, and it gives me no pleasure to share this, and some of you may know this, the DMK government in the South Indian state of Tamil Nadu, which has built its political reputation on having an anti-caste policy bent, and they have passed some important policies like making sure that the priests in the temples are not, the priest positions in the temples are not restricted by caste. This is an important step forward. But at the same time, what the DMK has done very recently is pass a policy that extends the 8-hour workday to a 12-hour workday. This is a serious and shameful attack on the rights of workers, on the labor movement, and who do we think are the workers who are going to be the most affected by it? It is going to be our caste oppressed siblings there who are in the most low income and difficult work situations. So we have to completely call this out, and I've heard that some people are justifying this by saying that, well, they're not extending the work week, it's just readjusting the number of hours on various days. Let's not kid ourselves. They are not doing this just to adjust hours from one day to another day. This is the first step of them trying to extend the work week from a 40-hour work week to a much longer work week, and it's also clear why they are doing this. There is a nationwide effort in India to attack the rights of workers, to make them work longer, because there is a whole push from the Modi government to start, to be quote-unquote competitive against China in the era of the new Cold War. And we just heard from the children who spoke here, the children know what they're talking about. They just shared that Dr. Ambedkar actually was the foremost leading person who fought for and won an 8-hour workday, as a legal mandate in India. So I just have to be clear. We can't call ourselves Ambedkarites if we are not going to have the courage to openly condemn and call out the DMK's policy and say that you can't say that you're on the side of Dalits, you can't say that you're fighting oppression if you're also not fighting against worker exploitation, because the two go hand in hand. So we have to be against oppression and against economic exploitation. There's another angle to this as well. The DMK and other parties, the opposition parties, are positioning themselves to build a united sort of, effort against the Modi regime in the upcoming central government elections next year. But look at the situation, right? The Modi government is attacking the rights of the poorest people and the working class and the oppressed, not to mention the Islamophobia that is being fomented. But then these so-called opposition are engaging in the same attacks. Before Tamil Nadu did this, in Karnataka in February, they passed a similar attack on workers where they extended the legally allowed hours to 12-hour days, and they extended the legally allowed overtime. All of this is straight up exploitation of workers, and the government in Karnataka is a BJP government. So where's the difference? If the BJP government is attacking workers and the opposition parties are attacking workers, where's the hope? This is what shows that if we are going to be fighting and continuing this fight forward, then we have to distill the most important points of Baba Saheb's message, which is that we cannot betray the working class, because if you betray the working class, you're going to end up betraying the Dalit community and caste oppressed communities. And on that same note, I just wanted to share with you all that right here in the United States, there's a major attack coming up. The Supreme Court, the US, Federal Supreme Court is going to be hearing a very important law, and it's very likely going to be a destructive ruling. That ruling will basically say, when it happens, if it happens, it will say that it will basically be an attack on a serious attack, historic attack on workers' right to go on strike. I mean, workers and labor unions go on strike because that is the only way that they can put a stop, shut down the profit-making machine of the bosses in order to win their rights. And right now, workers are suffering. There's a massive cost of living crisis going on, not to mention the attacks against black and brown people and all of the difficulties that working people are facing. And if we allow this ruling to go through, it will be a setback for all workers, whether you're unionized or not, whether you're South Asian or you're white or black American, whether you're a tech worker or a barista, it won't matter. This is an attack on all of us. And that is why Workers Strike Back, the nationwide movement that we have launched, is going to be having a protest action on May 6th. So please, Varun and Bia, where are you guys? Yeah. Are going to be handing out leaflets, and we also have a petition, against this ruling. I urge you all to sign this. Let's make sure that the profile of our community, those of us who are fighting against caste oppression, that we raise our profile among American workers as a whole by supporting the larger cause against worker exploitation, and at the same time enlisting their support to keep fighting against caste oppression, because as others have said, we need to win this ban on caste discrimination, not only in California and British Columbia, but federally we have to demand that Congress make this happen. Thank you. Solidarity.